Well, it's here. We finally get to see your Kansas City Chiefs play on an actual football field. It's been quite a while, and there's a lot going on, a couple of little details, a new signing, and we're going to talk about the 5 big things to watch in this first preseason game for your Kansas City Chiefs. Welcome back to RGR. I'm Ryan going rogue, and this is about the Chiefs and the National Football League and what's going on with them. You can check out the other pod channel for more from Locked On Chiefs, as well as the new RGR Craft Beer podcast. Check that out as well. A lot of new things going on. If you're new here, hit the subscribe, the notification, leave your comment below, and give me a thumbs up if you like this particular video. A lot going on. Want to give a shout out to the Chiefs and their in-house production studio, 65 Toss Power Trap Productions. They snuck a couple of sentences in from me this week into the franchise episode, and if you didn't get to see that yet, I'll link it down below or up in the cards or wherever they go. Just a couple of seconds, but appreciate them sticking me in there. That said, I will get around to doing a review of that. Last week's was a bit of a review, and I haven't been able, because of everything that's been going on, actually get to the reviewing the first couple of episodes. But like I said before, they do a great job, and it's a very, very cool look. Almost like your own inside Hard Knocks kind of with the Chiefs. News today, as I'm recording this, they signed Mo Claiborne. Got some CB depth, and that's really important because going into this first contest, things have been a little bit iffy. There's been ups and downs for everybody, including Bashaud Breeland, who didn't practice at first. Kendall Fuller's been having a rough go in practice lately. Now, some of that's because of the Chiefs wide receivers that are exemplary, but there is concern about him, and Andy Reid even hinted at the fact that he's not 100%. Looks like he's dealing with a couple of tweaks or injuries that are kind of hampering him, and I wonder if that's not what precluded this move towards Claiborne. It was also announced that he is suspended for 4 games, that is Claiborne, and maybe that's why this was delayed. He's been out there the whole offseason, and a signing this late can't be anything that you really think you are getting a starter out of. So they kind of waited for that suspension to come down. Now they make the signing. Now they have experienced depth, a guy that created a lot of PBUs in 2018, but also committed a lot of penalties. So it's kind of an up and down. But the big thing is he has experience in the league, quite a bit of it. I believe he played for a year with Tyrann, sorry, I keep trying to say that right. And so there's some experience level to that, and there's a familiarity. They'll get him in week 5. He should be way up to speed by then for a veteran like that. And in the meantime, puts a little impetus on a couple of other guys. So with that said, I think it's a fairly good signing and somebody that they can help them out, help the youngsters out as well. So I think that really helps everyone. So that said, let's start in with the top 5 list. Number 5, I want to see what happens with John Lovett. A lot of interesting things can go with him, but this is the first preseason game, a little bit of a, basic kind of show. You're not going to see all kinds of craziness going on, but I want to see a few wrinkles. I think lining him up at the H-back, and he's been working with the running backs, the fullbacks in practice, as well as some of the tight end reps. So he's kind of that tweener like we've talked about. But how do they use him? Can they come up with something creative to use him? Or are they just going to get him basic reps in this first game? I think he's a guy that, if he can make the roster and prove that he belongs, I think he can be a wrinkle in the future for this team in this season. And obviously they have Anthony Sherman, so it's not going to be an actual fullback role, even though that's where he's listed right now. I don't see him being a lead blocker that much. He might be able to do the wham thing that you see some of the tight ends do, and he may actually be able to split out just like the tight ends are going to as well. So, but the inline blocking thing is not John Lovett. So, do they do what we've seen from him in his pro day workout as well as in camp? Doing a lot of crossers, some behind the line of scrimmage, a lot of shallow crosses, and see what he comes up with. So, I'm looking forward to it, and we'll check back next week with how he does. I'm really keen to see what's going on with the number 4 issue, and that is the linebacker group. Varied, all kinds of different athletes. And if you missed the earlier video, earlier in the week, I did one specifically on what Steve Spagnuolo is bringing to this linebacker core, along with Anthony Hitchens and Reggie Ragland, who both spoke to the media and gave us some of their takes. This is a really deep group and a really strange group in terms of Really only one thumper type in Reggie. A lot of guys that could be Wills or Sams, depending on how you deploy them. And a lot of guys that have been thought in the recent history to be coverage linebackers. And that's so key in this particular era of the game. Until the pendulum swings back the other way a little bit, coverage linebackers are the way to go. So we're trying to see how that all fits in, how they deploy them. Right now, it looks like Ragland, Hitchens at the will, and Damian Wilson over at Sam are clearly your starters in the base. But we know how much they play base, and it's not that much. So the question becomes, and we've seen this in camp, is how they rotate through all the combinations. Reggie and Hitchens, Hitchens and Wilson, even Reggie and Wilson, who I think are probably the two, I don't want to say negative, but the two least good in coverage. Not that they're bad at it, just that I think Hitchens, Darren Lee, and Dorian O'Daniel, even Ben Neiman are probably all better in the coverage aspects. Ben Neiman seems to be coming on strong, as we heard this week. And I'm really questioning where we're going to see Darren Lee and Dorian O'Daniel. I want to see those guys get a lot of snaps in this first preseason game to get a feel for where they're at and how they're moving. I think those two, especially if you want to go into a small nickel where you can deploy some DBs and get your linebackers involved that can run, I want to see Lee and Dorian O'Daniel together. So that'll be the big question mark, and we'll get to that this week. Now, the guy that I'm most keen to see on offense, even though I do like Lovett, is Mecole Hardman. Had a couple of drops, especially on the kick returns, which I think he's been slated towards, but he seems to be grasping the offense pretty well, fitting in. We've heard all about the deep plays that he's been able to pull off, much like Tyreek Hill, in practice. But this is going up against somebody else. This is going up against DBs that want to stop you from running your route. I want to see how he handles press. I want to see how he handles remembering where he's supposed to be, getting that groove. Andy Reid says Patrick Mahomes is going to play a quarter. I don't know that I necessarily believe that, but whatever Mahomes plays, what can Hardman do in that time? Reps are going to be hard to come by because Demarcus Robinson is probably having his best camp ever. Now, we know that he didn't have the strongest year, but he does have a chemistry. He does have that connection with Mahomes, especially when the play breaks down, that keeps him on this roster right now. I don't see any way that he doesn't make it right now unless something goes awry. So the question is, does he give ground to Mecole Hardman and the rookie catches up? Who can they use where and when, and who becomes the focus beyond Hill and Watkins? That's going to be the question mark. And then as we get into the second half of this first preseason game, there's going to be a lot of other wide receivers rotating. What does Pringle do? What does Dieter do after not practicing hardly at all? Does he play at all? All these young, super tall guys that we need to see what they can do explosive-wise. Are they just possession receivers? Can they really get downfield? What can they do in this particular offense? That's going to be the big question mark. But it all rolls back to, where's Mecole Hardman and where is he going? Now, my biggest question, and the one that I'm going to watch the most every time he's on the field, and it might be a little bit of a question when he's on the field. Does he start? Does he get in there rather quickly? What can Wan Thornhill do? Because clearly, as camp started, he was a little rusty. He was getting in position, but getting maybe a hand on a ball, but not picking it off. And the last week has really taken off for him. Making plays, making interceptions, being in position. Even when he doesn't get his hands on the ball, somebody else does it because he's playing over the top and he's doing his last line of defense role pretty well so far. Now, that's against speedy receivers like Hardman and Watkins and Hill. What does he do against the rest of the league? I want to see some live goes, and I want to see him actually follow those instincts. What can he produce? Especially if he gets in a little bit later and maybe he's not playing the ones from the opponent. That's going to be the key. So keep a fast eye on what Wan Thornhill is doing, how he's moving around, and honestly, how he and Tyrann Mathieu are working together. Do they switch up who comes down to cover an extra slot possibly? Do any of them play some corner snaps? That's going to be key and important. So that's what I'll be watching. You guys keep an eye on it too. And number one, and this is the same number one as every preseason game, every game that ever goes on, stay healthy. Can you get through this contest without sustaining major injuries? That's going to be the question. There's always something. There's always attrition, and people get dinged up. But can you escape by not riding somebody too far into the ground so they're too fatigued or get themselves in a position where they're out of control, that kind of thing? Protect the roster. That's what this name of the game has to be, especially this early in the season. It goes triple for the starters, but it goes all the way down the roster because this team is deep in some places and very thin in others. And so those both have repercussions. I want to see them get through and hopefully not come out with any injuries. Those are the keys, the big five as I see them. Tell me what you think. Leave your comment below. If you're not subbed, hit that sub button, hit the bell for the notifications. Leave me a thumbs up if you like this video and let me know what you're thinking. Make sure you check out these videos, and I'll talk to you next time.